agreement experiences that something like the fear was like last home that about to face off and fight off against black market and with that right now on black market that showing up and taking down that that definitely one of the preemptions for black market just now showing up and taking down for my preemption would be definitely part of black market, like multiple strategies. Yeah, one strategy will be to maybe market, fear that maybe Jim might totally forgive Kuragawa. So that to that lower that the point of that the boundary of string of Jim by even if it by just one by taking out like Kuragawa. Certainly that Marquinhos might not actually felt that like as like it's like a chance so that in taking out that Kuragawa wouldn't look at all so he should to that Jim. The blame for Marquinhos might have even why in the case of that Kuragawa that is Sumagawa that portrayal of like just that me I'm referring to might be one thing that Chen might have been easily a like see coming eventually. That you know the understand. Which is like the kind of situation of Chen itself is like Chen about to totally that that from Chen's point of view, Chen is totally believing that like he would be without actually being able to be able to eventually that take the soul of that Quincy Ishida and basically that they would be able to that open up Superman and they would be able to go up to that Superman on through that like I'm referring that million to the that Jin might have wanted to get a result that Sudagawa whom definitely people at hospital basically and that Sudagawa might have been maybe also seen from like Jin's point of view as like someone who's that the biggest thing of even episode and I'm still implemented that investment that those in that sounds that the water ball calls and those two songs that might have been that initially that like and even after them that like actually it might have been drafted by Jin to that eliminate them by sending them to fight off against the so like that might be the reason for like that and even after their elimination like the water salt bound up of like their elimination of Jin and just like found to that and after that movie because the people is definitely on the so like then after that like something like the situation is like this Jim role like ultimate goal to like make a roll out like make it to and roll out taken over getting play from goal like Jim might have been a to like the coffee like again like okay get rid of that due to that the fact that like Jim might have been so difficult to do it that might need to do the right to have the prediction and let him the next week the film might have like the day the new back version definitely something like the original close friend might be far from I think that has that supplement concerned about which like film might be definitely aware of and like it's already for like in like the half like I think that Kunagawa having that or like you know I think that might have been solely due to like person or being in like this trap and disappointed kind of like state with the state of her life, and this might have been the case for and white, and that mental mindset of like and kind of state of like you might also having like was call of like consuming less and less for like so and look like a great time period of like experience in that freedom which might have resulted in that you lack that production happening in that 5 years. So yet like I'm looking from Jim's point of view, you don't like that like it once again like continue so exactly like all the other Jin and all the other powers and at that point that creation was through strength would be definitely returning back to its like normal state which would be far stronger than the other like so that might be the good you mentioned. So like you should definitely might be okay but just maybe someone that like Jin will be able to have like a process because of like Jin totally planning on like they will be rolling over like super amount of that lead that Jin will really expecting like powerful enemy uh, that follow that Jin would have Jin has like gone through would have to take out in order for like make that goal a reality. So that point I was definitely exactly like that in that water about opponent that bound opponent case like the fact that the two of them had basically combined their powers to create to that to create like combine that increase like both of their powers like this would be role might be like the actual true way of like fighting off that maybe the case of Libra by combining all that individual bond members into that single bond member who is like a strong stem cell to like that when that's a might despite that single bond member or it might be the case that this might be the way that strong might have been fighting even in like way back. In that way maximize like the power of like the power of like that single individual bond. So that now dominant maybe the case with the cleaner movie. So like things will just slowly difficult to even like everybody like even to like this movie. I just barely seeing that version of it like the new case that really might have been. So like, but yeah, I'm still taking my the impression that right now black market is not showing up and like wouldn't taking out like whatever and they even about the face of against black people even straight away challenge to go to fight like everything like and so they only markets stealthy plan, tricky plan to like turn and outsmart them and all the remaining of them. So like markets was definitely who is still like to the community on the side of good and would be definitely secretly would be totally wanting like the destruction of that Jin's war and to like bring down Jin and his like boundary might be the definitely door on that hit approach of like market to the person might be able to definitely to them. So like definitely market is not only expecting like the thousand create left for like can patchy and basically maybe a bunch of product from like because like and a bunch of students from like very made like about get them or at least like can patchy or like the can by general load of from the squad load like at least for them to like totally show up to this like exact house of Jen. Would be along the lines of the like market, really totally expecting definitely would be holding on to that hope is definitely by the framework. So like definitely what markets they're right now doing by fighting off straight away challenging it's go to a fight with of the markets stealthy and brilliant plans to that really strong time like to talk about that absolute fake acting in front of the Jen and the remaining counters like markets like thoroughly giving it its absolute just like try to like eliminate its role that by putting on such a fake act like in actually one market could do new game to like stealthy by time those season story by Sunday Kenpachi and the virtual piece that finally making it to that simple so that like at that point that for Martin to that finally like take off this like cover and basically to really to like Jin and the remember that it that piece against within that like to work against against the and their team to the that way for like Martin at that point to like team up with the Kenpachi and also to like bring down Jin and the platform that certainly might certainly be Marcus plan, especially my friend. So the play my brand reference for like Marcus last term they are like basically fighting off against that more sort of Ichigo and and they will be attacking and inserting guns as well as like earlier like Marcus like even about the fighter against like Rukia. Even that as well might have so at that point I was trying to fight between Marcus and Rukia might have definitely not have happened, might have been the case even before like the fight the migration is actually deeply fought out against like okay, even before that like I think what the pattern is that until that point that I bought like flight that all belongs to that government of wearing like the job like might have been spying on like what Marcus was doing on that for interaction between like Marcus and all that definitely might be condition so like it might have been like the sole reason for that Marcus that even might have been also putting on fake as well to convince that government was like a last we might have secret already had left a suspicion for maybe a long time towards that Marty, alone. So only due to the fact of that like it's not about his legs, but in that only with like Marty, being like a favorite and not about like something this like uh this like government or like the class might have been like the only form but even Jim might be like thoroughly blindly waiting that might have been Marty things that the rate market in the third floor or that is and the players will be given the permission that market is not even joining that agent platforms or might have they happen through that some of like a situation where like agent might have been about to get eliminated by frequency and like 20%. At that point it might have been markets that might have saved since like that markets might have not eliminated that frequency or anything like that like markets might have fought back and might have maybe stop that consist attack or somehow and might have totally save Jin might have been the case. The claims will be the next condition that like the bound would have naturally be extremely weak against like the natural powers of like the things like naturally the powers of like the things would be of advantage against like the bounds might be the day of the foreigner. So like the three instructions for like that day on like Jin might have been that day on Jin might have like so they in a way to that extent might have forced and like might have probably finally convinced like Marcus to join Jin squad and at that point might have been after like Jin like revealing his like squad and then frankly only at that point that left Jin might have been like Marcus was like feel like about and basically might be only at that point that Marcus might have even realized that like Jim like about and like Jim is like a cat and all that. So that makes the justice work on like the side of activity and that fight between Jim and that complete we can grant like Marcus at that point only might have realized so like since then Marcus straight down might have had that goal to like that have to self to like destroy Jin and Jin's like counter, but like the Magicians might have failed and not being able to like successfully execute that the black plan which like strategy to destroy Jin and like the bounce just because of solely because of something so in the offer might have been the case happening so like with Jin getting so elected getting so close to the black board of black making it to like opening up the common and like rolling over like the common or like only to so like Magician right now might have got the best fight and it's maybe the reason for like Magician like the reason for like they see letting like a picture pressure and be detectable to that the soul sliding and like market might have only that while doing that like market might have only and market might have while initially while meeting Jin for like at that when market might have went out and might have revealed to let Jin about like a market backstory and how he had back then that probably it's like so society and plan on going back playing so society. So that market might have back in the question might have said all this to that Jin and then that it might be due to like Jin maybe even after market like why market like little process is like probably kept undetectable by market so they don't price like Jin might have even given us at that point might have been when like market before even might have realized that Jin was like okay then when like market might have rendered out and revealed about like market back to our company we like and budget out that which like supplements right so like we like the person like while with like market making this like the most of the field and so very heavily the excuse of like a reason to like Jin when like market might have Jin might have been feel like only to have like Jin gain as much as like souls and that way powers as Jin can and so that like Jin will like even with like the Quincy sword like for like Jin to also consume even more souls powerful souls of like powerful souls because as well so that like Jin could be that much fully prepared for like the takeover of like this and the line consume like and so that like through such a manner like Maki Jin would be able to like get the supplements on like Kenpachi Kenpachi before like Maki is not so goes along with like Jin to like supernova will be around the lines and the like Maki might have put that as will take it from the Jin and might have changed into that basically believe it Marquinhos and that way that Marquinhos might have neighborhood that is some detectable for like a patchy when activity that Marquinhos doing that might have been that Marquinhos like right being a right for and for like the sort of situation that brings out might Jimen's background this might have been the case with the Lehman's range. So that Lehman's range so to bring that the moment that eyeball flight that doll belong to that phone number like that might have left like the location where like he's not so like interacting with like yeah at that point self on the different like market might have quickly gone up to like yeah might have like might have like promoted like fighting stance and might have quickly gone up to like yeah and might have uh secretly told yeah the exact location that like okay has to go to that save uh like to only save Ishida stepping in within that huge building like in the because that huge mansion where like it should have like exactly that exact room where like it should have like in basically there exactly okay has to like probably be able to like say that might be along the lines of like what market might have helped cookie out and might have yeah reform like market might have showed up to and market might have also warned yeah about that possibly Koga has read about that the name of the for that Koga might be like the best person would be more, most likely in that would be guarding it, that would be in charge of that, would be standing as like a judge to ensure that like Ishana remains in person in that role within the mansion. Might be the case of everyone else. So like and maybe market sort of might have stealthily either already might have taken out in that program like one possibility that I'm or like I'm looking like market sort of might have want Rukia about like Soda. And like that there is only a single guard, but he's like a strong guard, like Soda is like a strong guard. So like for if like Rukia wants to like save Ishida, that Rukia would have to like figure out a way to like take down Soda. If they along the line, some people like market, might have code Rukia. And then the super like market, might have straight away the kind of like head off to the locations within like the mansion where like the fight of that is going was like happening so that like because like for market was like totally executed plan of like story time because like market especially might have been worried that basically he doesn't make it there in time and basically picks up, put on a fake, looks like fake again, and picks up the fight between against like Ichigo, and that way if it doesn't start nine, then like Jin and all those like bound through that being something about Ichigo's that Ichigo without integrating them might end up getting overpowered and eliminated. Might be along the lines of that. That's the my weakness. Might be the case of Lumen. So like considering might have been by sheer lack that like Maki might have thought to that location were like which go about that like Maki might have even might have at that point seen that Kunagawa like totally Kunagawa like the threat of that Zen and basically that Maki might have taken advantage of that situation to that eliminate Kunagawa might have been more like a hundred that league might have been. Also, the film and frame vision of for like Martinez even after like or for and competing and entering like the motto like Martinez like a long kind of like a next kind of like a long dialogue exchange between like Rukia and everything and Martinez was given something like Rukia and all that. That as well, my reaction might be that Martinez that storing time so that like Martinez might have expected that basically to by putting on that way uh to have that way that eyeball that flight thought that might have been spying on my regional about which like my regional might have been easier to like send because definitely my regional might have told me that like Rukia that strength will be absolutely necessary if that Rukia and this monsters have to that say it should have might be around the lines like my regional might have but or like like just like a fellow so for like name or something like the last thing my regional might have wanted might have been to like up to them so that not to that so like I'm referring to not attack that for market is not to let stall time and to not attack. So yeah, and that way have like that fly road that leave that location. I'm different like it might be the reason for like market is not like saying orders about like can buy the end basically about like the ideology of that what that market and just like suffering the select work and delivered in that market was saying all these details to like someone like Sophia like would be like totally out of the loop and all this might have been like market like plan to like store finance so that might have been the case that really mentioned and also might be the reason for like this ideas that like market as well as like the project can be called like everybody has delivered like I'm saying like that you have to figure out uncertainty about the reduction that like it might have definitely not be that can find that might have challenge so that even though Kenpachi might not actually need to have that absolute desire to that to replace that previous squad captain and be like the squad captain and even though Kenpachi might have even know that basically that like Kenpachi back then that Kenpachi was has like surpassed like the strength of like that previous squad captain and still like only challenging to a fight and probably offer and if in such a fight like if I would be here to like probably offer and defeat and eliminate that bucket and would give like focus way into that like, season the question of that being like them for even though Kenpachi might have knew all this like into them, Kenpachi might have had that absolute genuine goodness with him that like Kenpachi even by his realization also like might have totally lack himself might have done a full lack not so that totally because like I'm that lead that previous squad captain might have been so like the all the remaining lieutenants might have been so extremely fond of that previous squad captain and took like ideals and everything. So like I'm going solely due to that reason, like for like the squad, like I'm thinking like he might have decided to for the happiness of like the squad and yeah, but you might own that to like not do that might have been like the actual different situations that we have doing. So like what might have happened in that different part about which like market so even though the person might be okay on that you see that like it might have been that previous squad captain like the black to like disturbance in that way. He might have felt disturbed by seeing that can by the not about caring about that like absolute ideals and everything. And Kenpachi doing just things in his own way and like Kenpachi only focusing on that getting himself from alone might have been the case. Rather than focusing on getting from like a group and everything. Then everything can be believed in all of Kenpachi's ideologies might have been partly contrary and opposite to that ideologies of that market as well as like that previous market might be the case eventually. So like and at that point like I thought my region of what market would be like only another thing might be like might have been that previous podcast that you might have felt that like this kind of feeling with him who might have decided to like forces like ideas and ideologies onto like Kenpachi by setting an example by like challenging Kenpachi to achieve to a fight and that way for my previous podcast in school like community Kenpachi because like Kenpachi might have been even back then might have been like focusing all of his most of his time on like training by himself and getting stronger by himself might have been the case even that as well might have been rather than working together, like that he might have been always something on training and getting stronger by himself. It's like might have been the case that he might do it. So all of that was like the market as well as like that previous work captain might have had like extreme ambition board might have been the case. So like it might have been that previous work captain too, with this like selfish desire to and or confidence to like enforces ideology onto like Kenpachi. Like he might have been like the one who might have totally maybe like gone up to like Kenpachi and might have the challenge Kenpachi to like just develop and that might have been his attempt to like and through his like or something like his that previous conversation or I think that like that he will like he definitely is definitely or powering and the greatest Kenpachi and he might have been planning on like doing that in an investment manner as well to Kenpachi. So that like that way for like Kenpachi to take that pitch to like Kenpachi's ego. And so that like that way like Kenpachi ideologies would be take a hit and like see that way for Kenpachi into like taking up things like the ideologies of that previous God captain maybe along the lines like that previous God captain might have attempted to like while the previous God captain might have even challenged Ken Paiti to that figure. And those bring that might have been problems for Ken Paiti that basically that if Ken Paiti even agrees to fight that duel like definitely Ken Paiti would easily be able to like defeat him and become like that spot. It might have been pretty definitely so like Ken Paiti initially might have even rejected that offer of that figure by the previous squad captain, like Shivaji might have been the case. So like I'm doing at that point like that previous squad captain might have probably got rotated at that point and he might have started to like get frustrated and he might have started to like easily mock Kenpachi and might have even called Kenpachi a cupboard for like refusing his like challenge to earlier. So like that way continuous prevention was an absolute mockery of like Edward Kenpachi by like that squad captain like and like he might have eventually totally resulted in lack empathy, or that might have eventually resulted in lack empathy finally, and that totally crossing all limits and finally empathy might have totally got triggered to the point that empathy might have straight away agreed to lack at that point to lack actor like challenge for it to do and that well like lack that squad captain might have got that absolute that parent on that with like plan with like him seeing like the face like empathy and Kenpachi might have put on a spell like might have probably offered and defeated like that Pokemon and might have that way when like into that race within that Kenpachi might have been only caused by that Pokemon so with like rejected mockery might of like Kenpachi might have been the case in this minute that race of like Kenpachi might have resulted in like Kenpachi and the like as part of like the roles of like that given that like the previous quarter might have challenged Kenpachi to like he might have even also told Kenpachi that like it's like the like no code of like no elimination or anything. If the along the lines of like he might have even said and might have even tried to fence to like even Kenpachi to like the real might have been the case. So like I'm trying such a no elimination role might have not seen as an adult in that dual between like Kenpachi and that previous squad captain might have been the case. So like I'm like to like that previous squad captain triggering Kenpachi and knocking and that they triggering Kenpachi to the extreme might have been the reason for like Kenpachi only easily might have in that duel might have offered and defeated like that squad captain in front of like all the Luthor. But like the scenario might have been by the time that Martinez might have so strongly heard about this duel between that Martinez like ground what happened in Kenpachi. Like by the time we might have made it to that celebration lab, but we might have witnessed to see like Kenpachi that totally that but like final attack like eliminating that severely injured that and that way can achieve that becoming that terrorist whatever. This alone might have been more like Marxism might have changed without realizing that everything that happened before that something to that sort of like more correct and everything and that totally forcing Kenpachi to the extreme to that agree to that you and all that might have been like the case certainly when the ago. So like at that point when the Korean for like ones like Marxism at that point once in the like they don't sort of there is by Kenpachi like at that point, like Martin Jones might have got a changing embrace and might have even shouted at like Kenpachi, calling Kenpachi a monster or something. But like I'm that at that point, like that entire time from that point on to like the point where like Martin Jones finally making the decision to like not only leave Kenpachi squad uh, but also to like leave Jones right like at that point like while Martin Jones might have the time while Martin Jones might have even taken this decision like and from like during this time that this entire time like Kenpachi might have kept it that crucial detail of that basically being like the that beloved production of Martin that had like totally forced Kenpachi to the extreme to like hack that duel. and from research regarding praise for cutting it. Like Kenpachi like about this torture detail and like Kenpachi might have consciously not told Mahicho at all because of that Kenpachi without knowing how much pressure and beloved that praise for cutting was to like Mahicho so for Kenpachi due to his a genuine bond towards because he thought they might have had that at that time towards bond of friendship that he might have already had towards Manchester. He might have not wanted to crush and destroy that absolute great image of that from the squad captain that Manchester might have had. So solely due to this reason, that he might have remained silent and not revealed the truth or the real between Empathy and that praise what might have been the case definitely much the impression. So that this might have been what might have actually happened in that distant past. It's definitely my personal impression that is sitting on it. Also, definitely my impression that is sitting on it, but if you go the battle between that Oradava and Ichigo had began in that match, the actor changed so they can be throwing in the floor. But in that actor then might have been definitely upon this act okay, tempting Konagawa because they might have thought he knew for a long time that Konagawa basically wanted to try and replace Jin. Might have been the case that you remember correct. That might have been a conscious act by Jin to tempt Konagawa into attempting finally building up the courage to attempt to betray Jin so that at that point Jin could not only have a reason for eliminating Konagawa might be the case definitely by the Korean culture. So definitely, this exactly might have been what might have happened for that trust that Jen had actually to flaw and the might have not even been the actual trust, definitely was the question that the actual trust might have been in Jen's pocket. Might have been the case. So I'm saying it might have been in thought, which might be having all sorts of unique and superior power using this the thought of Jen and the might be not having the power to turn itself invisible might be the case element so I'm and that dot might also have the power to create clones of things of objects might be also the case definitely so again so it might have been that invisible dot of gem that might using its power creating a fake trust which gem might have totally through to casually through to the block and that has a base to totally full constantly into the Konagawa into attempting to betray Jin so that Jin could eliminate Konagawa to which to which what might have been the base that Konagawa might have put back then not eliminated might have been what might have actually happened especially myself of the remember. Also the thing that I'm sitting on this definitely it might not be at all easy for even a powerful to to be able to easily hit it about might be that you remember and might be the reason for the whole looking up of or stealing of the whole messing with data bank at Mayuri lab connecting to the information like the that effort definitely might have been done by Kenpachi. Definitely because even Kenpachi might see Kenpachi is totally all confident about the strength in that Kenpachi might be totally aware of this fact that forms are naturally most likely might be having power that will give advantages against survival. Might be the case especially and about there might only be a past where an army of soldiers but might have been sadly overpowered and eliminated by an army of might have happened in that system but the human about this in history as well and might be only aware of. So this might be the reason for I'm might have been the fleet and that might have gone through that have found in that of might have been the case of even the brain. Because even Genpachi might have felt that it was absolutely necessary that he knew about super fighting off against bounce to save Ichinose that he knew all the details connected to bounce because so that he will be even standing a chance and bring down the bounce might be the case in the impression. So definitely so right now, in the person for markets, to totally to quickly show up and easily be able to totally early or and between about Kodagawa. This might have been due to Kodagawa being in a distracted state with Kodagawa's attention on the chain with chain and since Kodagawa was in a tense and confused situation with because from Kodagawa's point of view, Kodagawa getting since trust and get skill. Kodagawa attacks like Jin easily being able to like depend against like whatever attack like so from Muragawa's point of view, Muragawa might have been thinking that like even the like the real trust that Muragawa had at that point that Muragawa might have felt confused that like why he wasn't able to like stop Jin. But like I'm still thinking about the mention that trust might have definitely been a big trust that Muragawa had taken, which might have been only big for like Muragawa like Jin to like eliminate might have been the case definitely not so definitely my preparation for like the sole reason for like market channels just now being so easily be able to lack or form and eliminate the lack market channels might eliminate Uragawa might around like Uragawa might have been solely due to lack Uragawa or the reason in like a black state and like market channels after by spending all the time left might have been years and years, great number of years as like a member of like the boundary of like gym like by spending time like I'm doing that market channels might have with that aspect itself might have studied, might have been carefully observing and studying like the powers and like the weakness of like each of like the thoughts of like each of like the and as well like weakness of like the each of like the bound characters as well as like the bounds. Like Martin might have probably observed or formed thoughts of like the past years, great number of years and like it might have been collectively due to like this reason, due to this reason as well as like the fact that like Odagawa was doing like a 10 stand to like say that like Martin right now even being able to like so show up and easily or for and eliminate Odagawa might be like the reason for that it being possible for like Martin to eliminate Odagawa so quickly right now. It's definitely mandatory. It's definitely mandatory and Western right now as for like the current fight that's like about to take place today like Ichigo and Mark Ichigo like I'm totally prepping for like a scenario to be that initially I'm looking for like Ichigo totally being shocked and blown away by like the unique powers of like Mark Ichigo, unique and exceptional powers of like Mark Ichigo. And initially I'm looking for the time like the battle between like Ichigo and Mark Ichigo's favor and Mark Ichigo's side, but like I'm doing like eventually I'm looking for like that and that would be totally to like only to as part of like market channels fake accounts with that so trick Jim and others into thinking that like market channels that genuinely Juventus and they need to like have look everything like quite clear like to go. But like slowly I'm looking like market channels will be like moving with the like strategy which will be totally to like stall time and until that can by the end that will be able to like make it from a total rate you will be able to like make it to like convention. So that, like at that point for like market to like finally make it open and like to slowly remove the covers and basically to finally make it on that like he's like again yes might be the field what market will be planning. So like I'm putting in scenario to be eventually at black market will be as the five to 20 to go and market was from the representing of the black market, with that intent like short time like I'm switching up with that pattern style and everything. And that way like I'm keeping the fight going on for a while and maybe while market will be using such a time storing strategy like I'm at that point I'm like need to go simply gaining on like the fight and basically the time of like the battle seriously turning into like into the flavor with like the scenario that I'm looking and that way like I'm eventually it will be at that point that like market so we started to like take more and more injuries for us to go like selecting the scenario that I'm doing and I'm like in the scenario being like it's go market change most probably taking a lot of injuries and I'm looking like as like it will be about to like land upon attack uh, at like market you know slack which will be having like the potential that attack would be so but for the difference about like having the potential to like easily injure market so like I'm looking right before it's going to about to land that attack on my teacher or something for like the entrance of black and by happening with like can by totally blocking that at powerful attack of black which is and say the market at that point. It's like the scenario. That's how on the like the entrance of like and by happening and on the one maybe being like now can by the alone that is being that along with like and by the will be like the root of like and by the well making that end through such a manner to like just matching with like then just public scenario that I was right now and everything. Okay, so like the Clement range right now for like the most of like Carlo as well as Nova that something dying on the floor and moving and like the lyric as well as like okay, we're like I'm going to bring that me right now for like scenario to be like both Carlo as well as Nova right now just like instantly getting up like the scenario that I'm looking and like I'm going to like them to like at that point tell yeah and that like they were totally putting on a fake acting and pretending to be like sleep when in actually that attack of that totally for like marketing injure them to such great extent. Would be along the lines I'm looking right now for like Carolo and Nova right now. Revealing to a shock to a shock and embrace black there as well as forget. And then when Carol I know about telling that like they were using that and putting on that absolute fake acting and pretended to be like pretending to be thoroughly repeated so that like they wouldn't get they wouldn't have to like face more attack from that sort of monkeys. But with the along the lines of the right now, Carol I know about totally telling to that. But yeah, as well as the such it is what I'm looking right now. And definitely I'm bring that for it to definitely be part of that my represent that like market is definitely basically on like the side of good and on the side of like wanting to like print out this and it's that conflict. So like markets not might have in a calculator manner of like putting on that as fake acting as such like this like giving puts like everything into like that might have also ensured to like with that aspect itself like attacking of Carlo and Nova like markets might have ensured to like of its fake it and by executing attacks so as to like slowly minimize like the damage to Starula and Nova. Might have been what might have happened. Definitely my memory. So yes, so like definitely not mentioned right now with like those are being present in that location in like the mansions are like those are right now about to fight up against like markets. So like I'm looking for right now that like it might have been markets of that like Jen might have totally assigned to like the and basically for like the in-person issue that might have been the case definitely unprecedented. So like the Victorian versus for like market joints might have even market joints even deciding to like so to like the front portion of like the mansions or like market joints. At that point might have seen like that Kodagawa absolutely betraying like Jen like market joints even showing up to that location. Like the mansion might have been upon like market joints fake strategies to that maybe as to that simply to check like the current situation of that which go by that market joints probably put on fake acting as like to report to election that advantage nodes have that eliminated all the remaining improvers would be along the lines of that are like and like it's like markets of might have sort of there to like report to election might have been marketing's plan and might have been at that point that marketing might have seen like the opportunity of that seen the situation of like the betrayal of black Onagawa on jail and all that and Kitchener might have taken advantage of it might have been what might have happened as it might have been markings of that, like James might have assigned to that only to like that the road were like it should have my interpretation definitely not for able to so that right now with like markings of that being in like the front area of like the mansion like right now about the fight up against this go like I'm saying this probably making it probably that much easier for like the group of that yeah yeah and team to be able to that find and basically free like the in person we should have definitely my preference. But like that, the different like probably handling without basically like it's like getting the scenario that I was talking about. And I'm maybe preferring for like a remote property of like about looking where like I'm maybe that the subscription which like probably that bound member but like the class might still have towards like markets or like we might have I'm looking like a provide like things like yeah, things like with like markets and of like access according to my preference it might have a markets of that might have assigned to like the upper like things at least that also like markets and I know about the fight against to go like I'm looking like the markets and also to go fight would be going on like the main once again like to that experience of creating like that found member was like last once again sending uh one of his like eye doll like the fly like eyeball like doll through like the match and through like to totally confirm what Marty Jones had reported. So that it's like or not. And they leave but and maybe like that was maybe happening due to like while he was observing like a fight between like Marty Jones and Ichigo like at that point I'm going like in maybe like that down number alone like starting to feel a certain frustration as in like Marty Jones it's not feeling it everything into this fight as of like he's like stalling time. So like maybe once the substitution might be beginning that bound number like it last at that point maybe him sending one of like the eyeball like or slide out to through the match and to confirm what Marquez had reported up for like him eliminating that the other in role of like so at that point like Marquez I think like that one member was like the glass is like hitting that bigger shot on him seeing like a free issue as yeah and maybe at that point he by setting that I got like fly or like I'm sort of getting that absolute shock the black him that I got so that I got like the which would be most likely something like the purpose of like a CCTV cam flying CCTV camera like incident him getting the biggest shock of like that I got like flying down like seeing like yeah and like the remaining more like or well fully alive and like them having them freeing is that would be what this eyeball like more might be seeing at that point of like the other purple scenarios that I'm looking at. So like that way like I'm while like the fight between that so like I'm while the fight between like Ichinose and Ichigo will be going on and the different like stealthily like the sound of like the glasses like stealthily like going up to slowly going up to like Jen and basically secretly whispering to like Jen hears that basically that Ichinose is like a traitor. It's also like an able cooking scenario that I'm going to go for it and I'm correct. So my good impression is that like in fact the scenario that eventually happens then I'm with like even before like the Ichigo was Ichinose fight to be reaching its like conclusion and from that one of like the founders or maybe even Jin that interfering into that fight and maybe like attacking Ichinose and at that point like the Ichinose like cover getting blown and like Jin revealing that he knows that like about like markets like scratching and he has found out that like markets like the trade up and all that and maybe scenario being that has Jin looking about to eliminate markets that very last second being when like that in terms of like Kenpachi and like the difference would be happening and like Kenpachi stopping Jin's attack while Jin would be attempting to like eliminate markets with like color of the scenario that is also very understood. So the premium dimensions for like only for like consciousness to be able to use that bank hyper and not only like the stage one of that bank hyper, like stage two of bank hyper that would be that consciousness would be definitely able to like perfectly use and be the case of the manipulation. But like I'm doing for like things to go with consciousness quite like different consciousness to be consciously choosing not to unleash and use the stage two ultimate power of like the Nijigasumi like giant back of like markets images like stage two of like giant back of like Liam and markets of won't be bringing to this like fight against that is good. Definitely not right because like that markets of would be the thing that basically is definitely would be wanting Ichigo even like Ichigo to only take like the minimal extent of like hindering from that markets Ichigo that so that like Ichigo will be able to be of like help once like Tempachi and Pete will be showing up and we will like, fight alongside Ichigo and also to bring down together to like bring down Jin and like army down would be along the lines definitely that intent would be something within that market. So like definitely this is solely due to the subject matter of the like market that by at the same time like market who also having like the task to like the convey a lag app. So now create any substitute within like Jin and all of the like power companies who are like wanting this fight closely like so like I'm like so you know for the reason I'm looking at like market would be only using that same extent of that maybe that to me attack where like the light that shines on that telling the ultimate attack consumption and shadows like the attack of black market would definitely might be only like the stage one fan type of black market might be the case of the demon. So like I'm doing market also repeatedly using the like same attack but like in a different kind of like manner of each time like different and creative manner each time. Like get like market was always still sticking to like only using sticking to not going beyond like the stage one of like backup of like the scenario that I put in the example and this was maybe even resulting in like eventually the creating the feature within that down member of like the class or like even the gym as well as also like a remote problem that I'm looking and definitely and definitely I'm experimenting for like market also attempting to like star find by through like the battle between like Ichigo and my like the fact that like Ichigo have all curiously connecting to like market like this aspect market we're only seeing as like an ideal situation that like market will be able to like take advantage of by like to store more and more time by that fighting out against like to a certain extent and the then revealing the side of like the through just information connecting to like markets being a soul record to go bit by bit and then continuing on fighting and basically by exchanging kind of as well to like start even more time with like zero so that like like so that like while like the fight will be going on between like before like the fight between like Martin of the Ichigo would be ending that can by Jamal to be able to like show up. So along the lines like Martin will be only planning and like executing as well is definitely my possibility. Okay, so like the name of the frame episode right now for like Jin all of starting like in the theory into like the battle of like to go and mark Ichinos and Jin being it's back in the story like it's both soul and wanting him to like lead this Jin like and that literally like this like interest or interesting Jin extra interest in like Jin towards like Ichigo's soul might already happen. What exactly while Ichigo had like released this like stage one of this like blanket or right now to that which might be what like Ichigo had done to that only a thing of like what Ichigo had done to that counter against like the state one pancake power of like Nifikasumi attack of that Monty's just definitely remember things. So like Ichigo just releasing just like the best stage one of the like pancake power itself like that itself might have instantly considering that Jin being able to like quickly send that immense potential and immense power creator and extreme power contained within that shape within that Ichigo. So which that Jin might have been able to, like at that point that might have been able to like might have been what might have happened certainly remember. So like that way instantly like Jin like that might be how like instantly like Jin might have had that uh, quick interest happening towards like an addition form towards like Ichigo. So might have been what might have happened right now. It's definitely memorable. Definitely, my country ambition right now is definitely for like with like right now telling Ichigo to like live with them like right now Ichigo only what Ichigo how Ichigo is responding right now and the mission like Ichigo right now would be agreeing to like Jin's demand but like uh, and Ichigo on the different telling Jin that basically that Ichigo is only live with like Jin as long as like they have a fight like Ichigo and Jin has a fight and if Jin defeat Ichigo then Ichigo will like live with Jin would be along the lines of like Ichigo right now we're going back to like the scenario that way like I'm like the fight between like Ichigo and Jin happening just like the scenario that I'm doing and there was this time like I'm doing that well Ichigo will be saying all this to like Jin attempt definitely for like a repeated attempt by Martinos to like intervene and basically to convince Jin to like basically for like Martinos himself to thoroughly fight and or for Ichigo and put Ichigo into like an some kind of state and everything and stop Ichigo will be along the lines sometimes Martinos attempting to continue this like fight against Ichigo with like the scenario which will be only failing like the scenario because like Martin is really afraid of that actually like Ichigo has like a fight with like Jin or when himself like Marty is only feeling that like Ichigo will be easily getting defeated by Jin. And at that point self like Jin might since like Ichigo is like not a 20 and it's since like Ichigo is like a soul or like a definitely it might be which is that like it might be that that the situation might be that like it might be only in the case of 20 who might have like natural advantage against like the alone that like the wrong might totally need that will of like a Quincy to be able to take away the soul of the might be that is definitely might be correct. But in the case of Cobra like the bound might absolutely no need I might have absolutely no need for like such a will. Like the bound might be able to like forcefully take away the soul of like a soul because might be the case. So like something that definitely marketing might be aware of this and this might be the reason for like I'm still definitely attention only happening for like marketing and marketing right like in the way just like from marketing point of view marketing also they have that up with fear that like let's see go fight right now fight up again like then like Jin could like only easily pop up and it was very easily getting pop on and negated by Jin and at that point since the Jin might face away that take away like the Jin when we along the lines of like the smart marketing we have. So like I'm sort of marketing was trying to like convince him to have himself fight up against. So when like I'm sort of like telling marketing of that basically know that like thing that like he has decided that like he's going to like fight up against the episode. And like I'm picturing like that way like fight between like Jim and Ichigo happening. And but like in the fight between like Ichigo and Jin like and like Ichigo using all of his like strength to like bring down Jin because like from Ichigo's point of view like and Ichigo even from the member prevention will be only challenging Jin because like from Ichigo's point of view Ichigo will be the only thing that basically won't like bring down the bounds like basically if Ichigo was able to succeed in like taking out like the leader of Jin then like straight away there will be that instant sharp decrease in like the amount of like the remaining bounds so that like basically after like taking if like Ichigo succeeds taking down Jin, then like taking out the rest of like the one group won't be that hard. Will be along the line Ichigo beating. So like I'm looking for like in that Ichigo versus Jin fight, like I'm looking like Ichigo initially itself would be using this like stage one of this like Sunday powers and I'm looking like if that fight later I'm looking like that fight's not going on for a long time. That's just like it's not that I'm doing. But like I'm looking like Ichigo through that fight against like Jin when I'm looking like Ichigo probably finally will be achieving like achieving and being able to like use of like space to populate like market for like the first time in that the human world is like within our that right. So definitely like that way that to go even using like space to populate like banger pro against like Jim, but like I'm doing Jim still for an everything is good. But like the scenario that I'm looking for and something like that could only be due to that like natural advantage that the bound will be having against lag. So that might be the case of the elements. So like such an evil scenario, what I'm saying, the lag change totally or foreign and repeating Ichigo lag scenario that I'm talking about. And I'm going to bring like upper like Jin will be repeating Ichigo, like I'm going that at that point I'm going to bring that absolute extreme worried facial expression for like Marquez at that point. Well, like Marquez at that point will be clearing like basically Jin at that point itself should be like straight away hopefully taking away like soul of the people. So like there will be that absolute fear within that Marquez and like that fear will be clearly visible in that Marquez space, like facial expression, the feeling of brain. So like Jin after like defeating Ichigo would be like only unexpectedly taking that sharp look and stare towards that, quickly turning the step towards like Marquez and would be with like smile would be asking Marquez, as if inevitably, you seem worried, like I wonder why, could be along the lines of something like that in an absolutely realistic manner with like such a realistic smile like Jin would be asking worried Marquez at that point of like the scenario that I'm talking about. And at that point I'm with the friend like totally would be when like I'm like Jin totally revealing to like market knows that like didn't know that market knows is like the trigger. So like secretly trying to like bring down change and like the bounce to get on the line some of the thing like that way like market knows cover getting blown like that scenario in like happening so in that point. That's like the scenario that I'm looking at. At that point, I was like market knows to get totally shocked and I'm looking like that when Jin totally telling market knows to like take a look around. So like at that point, I'm looking like that fight between like Ichigo and Jin like market knows might have been totally worried for like Ichigo and basically might have been probably focused on Ichigo than like Marquez. During that fight between like Tim and Ichigo that happened like I'm thinking like definitely like the communication might have happened between that because like definitely that bound of like the glass might have sent his like eyeball like flying down once again to check up on like the intruders and I'm looking like at that point like that bounce member of like the class might have figured about like the betrayal and about like partition of being traitor and like the communication with like Jeff and all of that might have simply happened. So just like a head nod might be the case definitely going to this is I think earlier itself like that bound member of like the class was like had communicated was revealed to basically communicate with Jeff by this head nod like I'm sure that's had not kind of like a communication, even when Jim would be fighting off against like Ichigo happening in between. It's like the scenario that I mean, it's like Martin Snow could all in the thing. And that way, like I'm during Jim, even during like the fight against Ichigo could be that finding out that like Martin Snow like a rate of and all that like scenario that I was saying. And I'm also wondering like Jin might be also in like the fight against like Ichigo, Jin might be also noticing that that 10th case of Martin Snow is also from like the sideline. It's also like a so that Liam was going at that point, like while Jim will be telling after Jim defeating his role, like while Jim will be telling Market like to like take a look around, like at that point, like Market was shortly seeing that two bound members who were like watching like the fight from like the sidelines, like totally missing all of the fight. So like at that point, I think the impression for like the scenario might be like one's like Rukia and the other should be freeing and saving Ishida and would be attempting like make their way to like the front area of like the mansion where like those fighting over the like even before they would be making their like like the from like the I call like or like that last like that bound number was like last like figuring out about like the betrayal of like Martin and that Martin mentioned like a fighter. So like definitely the communication might have happened and two bound members might have from their group might have been already sent off to like to deal with like Rukia and the most even but like I'm saying and at that point like I'm saying that while like the Jin versus like the fight might have been going on one side like that situation on the other side might have been so then that mentioned like two bound members like might have appeared in front of like yeah and the most of that they might have been trying to like get away with like and save Ishida might have been the case as like a bit of an election after me as like Rukia would be free Ishida and like would be straight away ordering Nobart to like probably to like get outside like the mansion essentially with like escape outside like and get Ishida outside like the mansion moving over because like at that point in time brings the number of transactions to bond members will be like showing up like person there is like and would be straight away taking out like badly injuring mobile like the scenario that I'm referring. So like while and at that point like Rukia desperately attacking those two bond members and trying to like stop them and defeat them but like Rukia like suddenly failing and that is like the scenario that I'm referring. when that gets already pulse and everything that I just probably doing that like so them like which are there and that has meant that so one of those two strong members will be probably injuring Rukia like and that it will be at that point that I'm looking like the entrance of like chat as well as something I would be having. And I was putting that way like a fight happening today like chat and working neighbors supposed to bounce in this like chat as well as working neighbors who's finding that way into like injury only one and if it is supposed to bounce like to not that. So like even with injuries like I'm saying like chat and working man yeah along with like Ishira and Nova and then with like at that point like Taruno might be most likely carrying Nova because of like Nova's injuries would be to even greater. So like while they will be all making it to like the and that way like Nova won't be able to like do something like powers at that point. It's like to get Ishira out of like the mansion to like out of the range. So like at that point I was like definitely yeah and uh, Pokemon Jack also telling Ishira to like only to escape. But like and like they will be like only running off to that the front end with like the of like the man just to tell Ichigo how like that person out of there. Definitely I'm putting like it's not being able to like just escape all by itself. So like I'm saying as which is like Ishira as well has played a role in like basically in constantly separating himself from Ichigo and also like even though it was to like save for like the protection of his gun, still that he should have totally feeling guilty and like as like a friend like he should have won't be able to like escape by himself. So like what would be happening within that time period would be like Jin defeating Ichigo and like Jin totally like and like Maki Ichigo totally finding out that it's like Saga was like so and as like Jin really about to like eliminate Maki Ichigo at that point. At that very last second, when I'm moving Kenpachi and like Fellow will be going up and make it like with an arc and at that point I'm moving like Kenpachi's saving Maki Ichigo from that point like that. Like, Jin. And then the like the fight at that point. At that point, Kenpachi is only seeing like badly defeated and injured sideline Ichigo like with an out there and like hope and on Peter's manner and like an interaction between like Kenpachi and Ichigo happening where like Kenpachi in like an Peter's manner will be like poking off and making fun of Ichigo for like losing to like with an out there and then like the fight between Kenpachi and Jin so they will be happy. And like even once Kenpachi will be showing up and like Jin would be more interested in definitely more interested in like Ichigo soul than Kenpachi soul. Definitely man. So like I'm hearing the scenario to be like Jin totally defeating that fight between Jin and Kenpachi like Jin defeating Kenpachi without even like the effort that Jin will have put to like the Ichigo. It's like the scenario for them. That way like Kenpachi has been totally getting to like Ichigo correct and basically getting sidelined alongside Ichigo like scenario. That I think is all right. But like I'm thinking at that point, like Jen totally like walking up towards like Kenpachi and like picking Kenpachi up and position like Jen will be about to take away like Kenpachi's soul at that point is like the scenario that I'm positioned over like so like at that point I'm positioned like Marquisinos would be totally and frozen and I'm positioning like maybe Marquisinos like totally running towards like Kenpachi because like definitely at that point since about the experience for previous scenario like Kenpachi during that fight would have totally saved Marquisinos life by stopping Jin. And basically, so Lucky really wants that and by the suddenly defeated by Jin and has like Jin will be about to take away Kenpachi's sword right in front of like a shop. Marquisinos at that point I was like Marquisinos desperately trying to like save Kenpachi by trying to like attack Jin, but like Jin with like a single attack. That totally would be sending Marquisinos flying and like once again getting sidelined. So like I'm thinking as like Jin would be about to take away that Kenpachi's sword. At that point I'm looking like a combined attack like happening by Orihime as well as Chap. Definitely using the powers of like Itanaru there. And at that point when I'm like the entrance of like Chap as well as Orihime as well as yeah and like some also happening at that point it's like the scenario that I'm basically over there. And at that point I'm looking like Chat as well as like Orihime like trying to like take on and fight Jin with like the scenario that I was like. So like I'm just like that fight even before that fight would even be seeing it itself like I'm like but like a single attack itself that Jin would be like that sidelining like Kenpachi and badly injured sidelining Char and badly injured Char is like the scenario that I'm and Jin at that point it would be talking all by itself and like Jin at that point I'm sure by the like Jin would be extremely enraged with all his like interference into that Jin's like bad lender thing so like Jin at that point like totally making like using some sort of like a powerful attack and making him a somewhat and I'm looking like to like the next attack as like Jin would be about to like eliminate Orochime At that very last second is when like the entrance of like Krishna happening. And like I'm doing like for to not be just like in the entrance, but like I'm sure it's the moment that I would be even making that entrance, like I'm doing it through Krishna. Like at that very last second, saving from Jin's attack. And I'm looking at that point, like Jin softly witnessing like Krishna, the user Krishna, but like Krishna with like Krishna's like 20 powers, like basically 40 flowing with like the aura of like the 20 powers of like Krishna. And like with that, Krishna with such abilities to be like blocking Jin's attack, powerful attack. And like with the same of him as like the scenario that I'm playing. And for him at that point, like totally seeing that with that as like that absolute hero. And I'm even though according to my book, sitting into my book, I mentioned that like in that time, like Krishna might have definitely had that secret method during a rush towards like document. So something like it would be at that point where like that in a valiant and heroic manner once that Isra would be saved uh, for him his life from that Jin's attack like and with the blossoms so extremely powerful Jin's attack which even that and stopping that extremely powerful Jin which even neither Ichigo nor even Kenpachi was able to like stop it. At that point is when I was saying like that heroic act of like moment of like Ichiran was conductly happening right in front of like for him. And at that point is when number like of him would be starting to like feel that like massive trust and feelings of affection and love towards like Ichiran at that point. From that point on, like the scenario that I'm referring. And then bring like people with that moment of that Ishida and like Ishida getting back his like 24 and all that. Like I mean that would be that absolute morale boost for like Ichigo and like then the few of that crew, Kenpachi and like that all of them for all of them it would be that absolute morale boost and going to be that moment that my doctor that moment of Ishida like the scenario that so like that way like I'm like the actual main fight happening between like Ishida and like Jin. Like the main fight happening between like Ishida and Jin, while that all the side fight will be happening with like all the remaining town army members of like Jin was like Ichigo and Kenpachi and all of their crew members of that basically fighting up against like the remaining about army of like Jin. While like the main fight will be like Jin versus like Ishida. In which like I'm definitely Ishida would be totally still struggling to a great extent against like Jin because that under the transaction by now would have even though according to my preferences which would be naturally having like the advantage against that found like still under the transaction right now but might have actually stolen a great extent of the great number and the great extent of like powerful swords like light swords might be the case that like Jen might have by now like raised like the power levels of its like swords to like such extreme levels by now that I'm going to bring like that definitely should have still would be even if like 20 powers would be I'm going to first struggle. But like I'm going to still eventually like I'm going to like should have like in that fight like I'm most likely awakening some sort of like an ultimate 20 power in that fight using with this like that I would be like starting or falling and defeating and destroying like the doll, like the powered doll of like the gym is that scenario that I'm looking at. Which that would be at that point would be also destroying like the crust of that gym as well. At that point, like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like that way, like I'm looking like through each of us victory that I'm looking that definitely by then like I'm looking like to and through as well with that without only Starfleet or for and defeated all the remaining count army. That's the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm doing like for like the final scenario maybe being that one like that I will be defeating Jin and like will be defeating that origin thrust of like Jin. At that point, to which like all of that the bounces powers will be all connected to so all the bound armies of Jin, like all of their powers will be connected to that thrust and like so one Isuda would be showing that thrust like I'm doing like along with Jin, like all the found armies of Jin getting eliminated. There's like scenario that I was working and on the private chat, maybe by then like Yoshino as well would be making it to that scene and would might be fighting alongside like Ichigo and the group during that whole fight. Like maybe by then like Yoshino as well might have show might be going up to fight alongside Ichigo and group. And basically it would be totally contributing along into that fight. But like I'm saying that once that Picada would be destroying like that trust like I'm saying that once like with like an extremely powerful attack of Picada like Picada and only destroying like that door of like Jin or for door of Jin, but like also ending up that attack being so extremely flimsy attack being so extremely for that like the total destroying that Jin trust as well. So like that way Jin along with that Jin like all the remaining town members of like Jin as well getting eliminated one by one. And so like that way right before like Yoshino would be also waiting in it, and like right before that, like Yoshino with such absolute satisfied and yet like tearful and happy uh, manner, like would be like in a completely satisfied and content manner, is saying that absolute thank you to Vishila at that point, and they will listen as well at that point, would be feeling later in front of like Vishila to get that point that we totally that would be such an absolute shock for like what should have for like the core and extremely equal and energetic Ishida like that seeing that he was not getting eliminated in front of Ishida due to that the effect of like Ishida own or of the attack like that to be like a total shock of like Ishida. Yeah, like I'm feeling like that thank you that which I'm looking at that point in telling Ishida to be totally managing to that get rid of that feeling of the like which like Ishida that when we coming creating reflecting the scenario that under the role is like and also okay, so like the serial preemption right now that's for like empathy in like the backstory recording montage of wine and telling him to like plant the song it's like what might have happened would be like the after like joining like eventually leaving like soul society and like after like multiple join like like long army like at that point even though on the outside like I'm sure what Martinov might have one like Martinov might have totally realized that like Jet was like a villain like initially like Martinov might have remained as wine. Like it might have been a scenario where like Marky Jones like on finding Jen like right now the it might have been maybe a scenario where like it might have been Jen that might have saved Marky Jones also like what we developed. So definitely with like Marky Jones right now, even saying how like he was like totally amazed by like Jen's like acceptance, strength, like and then thing like and like so definitely after like comes to like the human world like and it might have been a scenario where like a fall of might have part of fall of might have tried to like eliminate Marky Jones might have been the case in that particular world. So like maybe at that point it might have been Jin that might have taken out that fall and might have taken out by Polo and like the soldier is like Jin might have not actually tried to like it might have not been like Jin actually caring for like Marcus Snow not trying to like save Marcus Snow. Might have been just like Jin feeling like so they wanting to like test it strength again in that powerful Polo and like Jin might have because like right soon before that like Jin might have absorbed like soul like someone powerful might have been the case with everything else. So like Jin might have wanted to like just put like sprint and so like Jin might have fought and eliminated that follow. And that way like Marty Jones might have been saved with the team and so like at that point like Marty Jones might have felt that basically Jin has like that absolute even Marty Jones at that point might have seen Jin has like that absolute absolute replacement for this like lost previous squad captain whom can like have eliminated for like and Jin continues that that when straight away might have assumed that like Jin is exactly that and like that feels that shares about like this that only empathy and everything. So like at that point I'm looking that Marquez might have Jin might have maybe even and I'm maybe Jin at that point might have seen Marquez like Jin might have even felt during that time like Jin might have been wanting to like might have been in like the process of like recruiting more wrong members into the platform. So like I'm looking at that point, seeing that markets of like Jin might have been able to like send like markets of friends like was like the way Jin might have seen markets of like struggling against like that of the fall still looking like Jin might have been able to like send that markets of forcing to an extent of point as well. That would be what the of that market of to be like one of like the underlings like the subordinates of Jin Miller and like Jin as well might have as well. Jin might have asked at that point markets of markets of want to like the you might have maybe told Pakistan to like join and it totally joined at the black team. So they along the lines on different that Jim might have told Pakistan and might take for Pakistan straight away might have assumed that like Jim as like that as the replacement to the black will be exactly like real but like expert captain so they along the line Pakistan might have Jim so like it might have been so like at that point, once again, even after like empathy, like advice to like market, to like not be a wine and basically to plant its own fruit, like still, even after that advice, like even after like market, had made it to had came to like the human world. Even at that point, like I'm on seeing like Jen like I'm doing market, might have once again turned into that wine again. He might have started to like to feel safe and like to totally take the role of like supporting Jen and basically as like the subordinate and along the lines like Martin might have went back to devote his life to that the to trophy that way once again like Martinez that instead of that focusing on Martinez like Martinez might have and Martinez potential like I'm thinking about Martinez might have put all the focus on Jin and might have decided to train hard just for like Jin's like success and everything. Again, organized that Martinez might have came to the mindset and Martinez once again might have stayed as like a wine might have been the case definitely but like I'm doing like without me currently Martinez might have realized that like about like extreme values of like Jin and everything and like basically the play at that point is when I'm from that point is when I'm with an advantage of whom from that point might have remembered me actually so can fighting about like for like advantage to not be a wine and basically for him to plan his own routes and he or like I'm different advantage without realizing from that day on like on front like advantage might have realized that like like a village from that day on, number like multiple of might have fixed in mind to like actually to ensure to like even if it's that as well skills like ensure to like bring down skin and it's like entire amount. So like then like I'm like even though Ichinos might have started putting on like actual fake acting as if like he was like a wine and like all this subordinate of like gin on the outside by think down secretly within like a market of that that actually might have been planning his own sports and might have been steadily training his hard and growing stronger and that at each year past, like these ones might have been learning more and more away from being from his like mindset to that being more and more of like a strong three might be the case certainly when it's but like there might have been all that extreme hard work and training that might have when Smarties might have done in secret like uh, in like without like check what the others finding out like market might have done a whole lot of training with that after goal to lap eventually because like that league market might have been that like all that strength and that heroic strength and everything that will be definitely needed for markets must be able to actually break down in the line markets might have been but like I'm mechanically that scenario might have been that while markets might have been putting all that hard work and putting those training and doing stronger and stronger skills the gap of that hero in strength of like markets and Jin might have ended up being so extremely huge with like Jin that the more life force that Jin kept absorbing, like the more greater like the increase in the gap in expense between Martin's and Jin might have happened. And that way like I'm still like eventually Martin's might have felt that he was like Jin about the accumulation like ultimate goal of like really making it to opening up to someone of and they're going on like that to someone like that. And that point I'm like Martin's might have realized that really Martin's by himself won't be able to that defeat Jen. So like I'm just definitely still Marquis might have decided to for the lab. Might have still decided to like to keep training so that like he could put in this side of like the effort and basically Marquis even that lying to like Jen and basically also having like lying to like Jen and basically like making it like physical pressure even detectable to like separating all of that might have been like Marquis like probably hoping that way that can continue we can yeah. So it might have been just enough time like it might have been that much of efforts of like basically him spraying more and more away from being a vine and then growing more and more into a tree. And maybe like during this process at some point like Magic might have remembered that like words of advice by Ken Pazzi to like Magic to not be a vine and to like Magic. So maybe by now Black Magic might be totally might have realized that the full depth of like that advisor can but before like a motivated that about it. So like I'm sure marketing might have trained since then might have trained Mr. Hard or waiting for the moment for like they are like eventually marketing of the eventually marketing might be hoping that they can continue showing up and then we marketing will be once again be able to like fight alongside Kenpachi to bring down Jen. Also, the reaction right now is that it being such an extreme terrain for like a sovereign to like lead like the whole society without submission like and the friend definitely still have a like markets now without eventually would be once like Jen would be defeated like I'm definitely like along with like Kenpachi like literally like markets now would be also coming back to like the whole society and like markets now would be totally feeling that uneasy and like confused as for like basically that like it will be totally that absolute punishment maybe of like an execution that might be lying away for like marketing of one's like marketing of to make it back to like society to be along the lines marketing of to be having that yeah. But like when like it will become back to that it assuring marketing knows that basically that like absolutely nothing would going to like happen. That way there will be no punishment for like marketing and basically like and like Kenpachi has Maki from that day is part of like Kenpachi's one way along the lines on the that point at that point like one that Kenpachi and Maki we are going back to like the society Kenpachi would be telling Maki like the scenario. So like once like Kenpachi would be bringing Maki back to like the society. At that point of time during by then like Genrosai who has like gone off for some reason. Then that as well Genrosai would be definitely Genrosai most likely having gone off for like his like private train because like definitely the like the whole recent situation and everything definitely Genrosai expecting for like Ethan to like show up with like a huge army of like powerful followers, like Keraninos and everything that trying to like making that absolute intimidating kind of like a range of to like the whole theory to like destroy not only theory but like the entire so like you will get along the lines of second again this future scenario that like can just have that absolute fear of. And so like I'm doing like the reason for like into like right now like talking missing to get up into like going off to like train himself and to sharpen the skills and get himself to strengthen very good strength to like as much as it would be possible for like like so like by that time in like the distant future once like it will be making substantial like theoretically like at that point Kendra side would be able to be prepared. Okay, along the line Kendra side would be of like the mindset of right now and this would be the reason for like Kendra right now missing is definitely my intention. But like I'm feeling like after like Kendra screen like I'm like Kendra side would be returning back to like Serity and at that point is when number two like and by the end he's not to be returning back to like Serity that is like the scenario there. So like that way like the news about like Marquis was such a long time coming return back to like Serity would be quickly spreading through like Serity like the scenario there. So like I'm straight away like again recite only giving the orders to like bring like Marquis was in person like Marquis was entering into in front of like Kendall Gelam the like Kendall Sai bit of photo of them. Like I'm looking like Kendall Sai would be thing of that basically that punishes Marquisinos for like triggering that has to go the code of like leaving like self without permission by giving like the sentence of like execution to like Marquisinos. And as like that would be what Kendall Sai would be tolerating and Kendall Sai would be about to deliver that sentence like I'm looking at that way that second standard like Kenpachi would be making it take it as generous to like that whole palace like place of like Kenpachi. And then like I'm putting like it will be definitely Kenpachi that will be at that point. So it's like interaction to like Kenpachi would be telling Kenpachi is about like the whole recent situation and everything. So that by the time Jason makes his return, like each and every single one of like the soul reapers are extremely precious to like Serity for like the protection of like Serity and definitely Kenpachi will be telling Genrosai that it by now that it will be like right now it will be totally obvious for like Genrosai how exceptionally strong like Marquisinos have grown by now since he had left. So like Marquisinos is such an absolute valuable asset to like the society even if like Marquisinos has broken like the whole package with the purpose of like Marquisinos and like Endoton in that in like Serity basically is like going to be definitely having like an eventual major role to play in like deciding like the fate of like fate and like the future of like the survival of like Serity and like when that into society would be along the lines of the like can match with that absolute confidence that will just straight away telling gender side like the scenario that I'm going and at that point I'm looking for like gender side will be totally saying that basically you can match it for your right. So like I'm trying to at that point, even though with like a certain extent of like still with the like that of accepting that can is totally right, and I'm trying like say that way totally canceling like the punishment for like Marquisian and like they given the order to have Marquisian from that day on like be part of the can spot. Uh, that for example scenario that I've okay, so like the cleaner preemption right now is what like gym right now, but just with like single finger like stopping off like with like movement like I'm trying this might be totally gym trying to like hopefully take the life sword of like Ichigo might be the case of limited breaking. But like as like Jin will be attending this and basically as like Jin will be almost like fully about to steal away that Ichigo's like life sword like at that very last second is when I'm most likely that the entrance of like Kenpachi and then return slowly after like the scenario that so like I'm still like a you can touch it. That I'm also trying right now the insulated as that Jin will be able to fully steal away Ichigo so would be like something stopping that attempt point Jin is like the scenario that I'm also looking in my disclaimer. Like it's like the Nilam preemption right now for like Chinta as well as like the other girl like basically posted from stare like or across that shop like basically that's the them attacking like casual attacking the dimension of text in like for right now certainly Urahara as well definitely I'm referring to the would have shown up along with them definitely memorable. So like Urahara isn't going to such extreme extent that the fact that like Urahara should entire time while he's saying like Chichiro's journey from like the beginning of like the so the fact that Ichigo has been in such even after like meeting Urahara, like the fact that Ichigo has gone through all sorts of extreme trouble and dangerous kind of like a situation, and the fact that like in their time like Urahara not even one had even bothered to like show up himself and like help Ichigo out like would definitely due to like Urahara having facing that much of like uh, that much of like an expectation and faith on Ichigo actually more than faith like it would be that expectation that like Urahara might be having after like Urahara having like known Ichigo the potential within like Ichigo like and the strength contained within like Ichigo like Urahara might have raised that much of like an expectation of Ichigo to totally pull through regardless of like how much like thousand these stack against like Ichigo to totally for Ichigo to totally survive. So like definitely it might be sort of for like this entire time like all the kind of situation that Ichigo has in his like journey so far have brought to like Urahara not even once like even bothered to show up himself and to go out. Definitely remember the mention. But like right now, the point like scenario to be like with like Cinta and the other girl, like and that other guy as well as like Urahara as well would have shown up. It's definitely my friend. And you should be definitely feel like Urahara right now in like person speech feeling uh that like there will be definitely that help of like Urahara will be actually be needed if you go needs to like survive in like the fight against like these counts would be along the lines that for Haram might be strongly feeling right now. Definitely my favorite and because like because of like it's about being such a valuable asset for like for Haram. Like when you see that from for Haram's point of view to be that it's about alone that is that single person that will be able to like eventually defeat it or for a defeat Asian and they will be able to like get back like that from yourself to from Asian like usually since that definitely that will be the biggest priority in that life that definitely understand. So like the survival of Ichigo right now would be that much of like a top priority for like right definitely my friend. So like the name of like Urahara right now along with like Jinja as well as like figures Urahara as well will be showing up and to help solely the Ichigo for at the first time in an actual batch. Definitely my friend. And the reason would be that Urahara would be right now seeing that much of like the real possibility of like Ichigo probably losing again like Jin and like probably getting not only getting defeated and getting eliminated but also getting Ichigo's like sword as well getting stolen by like Jin and were like in such a scenario. And if that were to happen, like then Jin would be so extremely strong and because like definitely by now would be like I think like aware of like this whole Cuba on the board and everything like that might be the case with the Neva different. So like definitely the survival of not only like the society but also of like the human world as well since like the society and human world coexist with like one not being able to like exist without the like time. So definitely like so absolute like the fate of both like society and like the uh, human world would be all resting on the current battle would be along the lines like O'Hara would be right now might have figured and right now would be probably winning a certainly manufacturing. So like in this current battle of like so against like definitely O'Hara would be probably strongly feeling that like will definitely be needing that absolute extra help from like O'Hara to for like it's about to even be able to like between Jin would be along the lines like strongly O'Hara would be right now feeling certainly man so like definitely a different like O'Hara right now which I'm like greatly like taking it to that mention and I'm totally putting like a fight happening between like Urahara and Jin, like a scenario that I'm really like where like I'm just like Urahara you need to like unlock everything, but still I'm putting like Jin probably or for me defeating Urahara. It's like the scenario that I'm made and then putting maybe for like along with like Urahara Yoroji as well was leading person like Yoroji as well as Soikon as well maybe big person showing up right now along with like Urahara. It's also like I'm supposed to that. Yeah, like I'm going to put all of them like fighting Jin together. Like and then at that point after Jin would be ordering this like about army as well to like fight against the Urahara and Yoroji and also like what is that another. But still I'm doing like a fight, a one versus fight, one fight right now happening with almost grade between like Urahara and Jin where like I'm just putting like Urahara would be only attempting or probably only seriously doubting the like the possibility of like Urahara being in like defeat Jin, but like Urahara would be the only thing that like even if it's through Urahara like sacrifice for like and Europe as well would look at the same kinds of like basically if it's through that sacrifice for them to be able to like do enough damage to like Jin and like the boundary so that like Ichigo and Kuro will be able to like continue from that point and basically will be able to like or engage like the injured Jin and like boundary and that way still like Urahara as well as Europe will only having placing all that faith and hope in like basically still even without the process like Ichigo would be still achieving the ultimate goal of like basically defeating uh, and Ichigo would be that way that maybe Kurahara might have already created like the whole setup and might have even assigned someone to that basically even if that in the scenario was the scenario where like even if that Kurahara still gets still to definitely ensure to like get Ichigo and to like Supermondo and to like have them really make it towards like Jason and for like that ultimate fight between like Ichigo and Jason like happen and for all the training that Ichigo will be needed to like unlock his like true power and potential until that point like for all like I'm like Sarahara and Yoroti might have created done all the preparation and maybe it might have right now sort of to select mansion of him might right now might be the case new difference. So this is like the scenario that so definitely that Kurahara as well as Yoroti behind placing that absolutely on that and for based on Ichigo that maybe even if they get eliminated uh, in trying by trying like saying still Ichigo will be carrying on the ultimate goal or have like ultimate goal and actually will be eventually fighting with his own kin would be that going up and will be surfing and finding Jason and fighting and defeating Jason and like, getting back that whole juice or like so which is definitely my consideration. So yeah, definitely I'm looking like a one versus one fight between like Kurahara and Jin happening along the great lane, which like Jin will be totally will be won't be able to like fight Kurahara casually. Like definitely Jin like being both like use a lot of like power towards the end of his like power but not as like actual robots, but just a great extent of Lempton's powers to like actually fight up against like Valhalla. And I'm just that way, like it's still under like Jim totally all for an defeating Valhalla, like when the scenario that I'm looking so like Jim will be so still for as like a bound. And like naturally like due to like Jim being about like Jim's like power to be like naturally advantages against like people as well. Definitely when the direction. So that way, like I'm still thinking to myself that won't be this time it won't be zero that will be defeating like the main villain Jin, but like in front this time for to like leave it to leave the scenario to end up being like not Ichigo but like the like it should have the like should have 20 powers that would be like basically having that ultimate final so now one versus one fight against like Jin you should like 20 should have right go sorry and defeating and eliminating Jin is like the most scenario that I'm going to bring and okay, so like definitely one preemption right now the like gyms like managing being discovered and Ichigo being paid by Yoruchi like still I'm just very like that like all of them right now being present in that force in front of like gyms managing like I'm saying that they won't be like leaving that able to like use that force without eventually defeating Jin and his like down armies like being the scenario like I'm just like I think like even like that with this like that of like going for or like the mansion of being to like save Shiran or like I'm just would be something that like when might have not thought to them even attempting such a rescue infiltration and rescue of language. So like they might have not gone with like neither Yorochi nor neither Yorochi or like Oranara might be the case that so like when Ichigo like fighting off against like Jin like so when Ichigo was like trying to like fight off against Jin and Jin and like maybe at that point um, Europe as well as like Orahara might have been able to send so like at that point they might have been able to send that like this count is like totally different like the gen like that count is like totally different and that count like counts like on another level that like it goes like won't be able to like see even with like it goes like defeated like it was the current level when they along the line something like strongly Orahara to like Europe might have felt definitely when it makes sense their highest priority is definitely the survival of like Ichigo's in like Ichigo's like the key to give you have like the key for like your things as well as like for to get back the soul skill and everything. So definitely I'm going to bring that way like that it won't be just like your right now but like for her as well right now for us sort of to ensure that like your gender eliminates you know definitely remember so like definitely yes like your right now saving Ichigo and like it went through all of making it to that fork right in front of like Jenny like mansion and then destroying the map. Still able to them not being able to like get out of like make it out of like that fork even before that like them being surrounded. by like Jin and his like from army to like scenario that I'm going. So like I'm looking like the round two of like the battle against like Jin and like Jin and like countdown taking place in that force is like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like definitely it not much great delay at all. Like I'm looking at Jin has like so when all of them to be saying that is they have finally managed to like escape and like be able to leave the force like I'm feeling that getting them being surrounded by the bomb army of like Jin and like Jin like the scenario that I'm looking at. So at that point, I'm looking like purity totally telling. At that point, Ichigo once again trying to like, even though Ichigo like got exhausted to a certain extent, I'm looking like it was still wanting to like fight up against him. But like at that point, I'm looking like for to be like the scenario where like Yoroji will be at that point telling Ichigo to like that for like Ichigo to like to stay out of this battle and basically like it will be on the point to the narrative be like Yoroji that will be about to like face off against like Jen, like the scenario that but like I'm thinking like fight up like Jollity will be about to attack Jen like I'm looking like the entrance of like Rahara happening like scenario that I'm looking. And then I'm looking like most likely Rahara telling maybe Yoriki to like stay out of like the battle and maybe at that point I'm looking like the scenario the final scenario being like it being like Kurahara that would be about the face of against Jin, and that way like the battle between that one battle between that Kurahara and Jin. So that beginning from that point on, like giving the scenario that they were going to bring. Okay, so that moving from right now as for like even after like Jin escaping the like Yoshino as well as like it I like the confidence of Jin as for like Yoshino as well as should I even then back to like Jin. I'm going to bit of need to like the Jin will be absolutely certain by now as for like how badly Yoshino wants to like stop Jin would be one thing that would be perfect obvious to like Jin by now. It's definitely meant for him. So that Jin might have not might have only pretended to like not know it, but yeah, deep down that Jin might have been able to like his listen and it might have been partly obvious one thing that like as to like how badly Yoshino wants to like take out and eliminate Jin and stop Jin from achieving the goals. That might be the case, but minimum requirement. So definitely that Jin plan that might have been to for like and I'm thinking maybe if like more competitive like maybe Jin's like ultimate plan might be to like eventually stay like the souls of like the bounce like the soul for like about that I mean, it was like since like the bounce basically not really born, but like have that strength as well happening through like all the sources that they are stealing and so that from within like the bound like I mean all the souls that all the bound army members of like and like all the souls that they have accumulated by now, all the souls that have melded onto like their own souls or this entire time that basically Jim's plan might be to like maybe go all alone to like to come on all my himself that after like absorbing like the soul of like should I like Jim's plan and after like at that point that like the talented Lukamondo would be like actually would be most likely like throwing huge and basically for so that like it should Jim would be able to like make it to Lukamondo when the other like Jim would be the only thing definitely was a trend since plant may be frequently might be to lack of like gaining that upward certain strength after like absorbing like if it out like Quincy soul like at that point said that since plan might be to like at that point said that eliminate this like found after as well. And basically to like before elimination to like easily defeat each and every single one of them and basically before eliminating them to like probably steal away like all the souls that within the system and they forced him to like make all that souls so might be in plan and then to like eliminate all the from army members of legend might be also in plan like and like definitely in that plan of Jin like definitely market knows as well if we could target is definitely my favorite impression. So it might have been like the plan of Jin even from the beginning since ever since like Jin might have set up that plan to like totally make it to like to come on and live and roll over like the world of college. Like at that point, so like this might have been a plan that this might sort of definitely my friends. So like I'm like each of like the members of like the army members of like Jin would be in athletic Jin and only be in athletic seeing them as like an abstract right definitely members. So like your of itself would be seen was like an eye by Jin. Definitely my very impressive. So definitely my very impressive for as for like Jin confident right now uh, as for like Jim totally having that absolute confidence that if you should definitely turning back to Jin. That definitely was bringing to definitely due to that Jin probably by now should be absolutely knowing how to build that big Jin. Like how badly take down the sense to like stop Jin so that like Jin will be totally saying that even if like they like even if like they saved and rescued but like we should not still as long as like uh Jin person is there like basically in this world like basically won't be able to like won't be able to like have peace at all. So like definitely that definitely to bring down Jin like definitely by herself like definitely eventually will be returned back to the chain would be to like stealthily through an ambush attack to attempt to like eliminate Jin. And at that point, to like capture would be like a Jin plan, definitely not the favorite. And this would be the reason for like, and definitely with like being a pure fight, it's going to like definitely that as well. Different like Jin by now will be as will be threatened that usually was solely due to that instead of because like instead of having that bond just like bond of friendship towards like and that's a form of work like will be also since like Ikeda and have spent time together with Slack and definitely Koga as well have they really with us like basically so definitely by now that thing will be actually something that basically once like will be coming towards eventually coming towards like thing at that point definitely Ikeda will be probably following and to scrape and at that point like Jin will be easily able to like capture Ikeda as well and once again that if they were to that attempt to that take the result of that will get on the line that change would be very strongly would be feeling definitely my handling certainly not and this might be the reason for like them right now being so careful about like the escape of that using as well as it's definitely my very interesting. And my book very interesting for like eventually in a way that kind of like a set of scenario itself happening is like the scenario that I'm keeping you are like I'm looking like right now that's like it, it's going through and all of them will be like meeting up at like Rahara shop and they're like Rahara, Yoriji and all of them would be having their absolute discussion and would be brainstorming trying to figure out like the ultimate plan we strongly bring down James and like about army capability because like it's been also very strongly feeling that basically after like having met and seen what Jin is like definitely they will just strongly feel that definitely without a great legend and like found are maybe coming for like Isra. As well as using all the internet like they will be strongly feeling so like definitely like they will be brainstorming and trying to figure out an ultimate practical plan to like hit the launch plus and a perfect ambush attack on like Jin and like push about army the next time to like that way next time to like ensure to like take out and bring all of them down. They along the lines of something they will be totally brainstorming and coming up with like all sorts of ideas and that when they will be and I'm looking like you this time I'm looking like as well as like Shannon Arrow as well ending up showing up to like the stuff as well as like the scenario parents that way like whole reunion happening. It's like it went around all of them as like the scenario parents. So like why they would be all together and like will be thoroughly putting in that effort and brainstorming and trying to figure out the ultimate ambush attack plan against like the boundary attack. I'm looking during this time like I'm like version of the only scene was like and but like Yoshino would be thoroughly feeling bad and then definitely because of that Yoshino would be strongly feeling that usually even if they attempt such a practical plan and attempt to like break down Jin that at least still they will be only failing and losing and getting eliminated by Jin and like the boundaries will be along the line like Yoshino will strongly failing. So when I come to by they will be brainstorming and trying to figure out like the ultimate practical plan like I'm doing in like the middle of the night like I'm put like Yoshino only secretly flipping out from like for Hara's drop and I'm looking like Yoshino once again going back towards that Jin would be to so that and was not home strategy to that alone and I'm to attack Jin to take out Jin alone with the that I using that plan that you know without they destroy that trust of that Jin and that way like a single act of like destroying that trust alone that to take out Jin as well as like all the sound would be like the version as well would be using plans that lead my game so definitely like it would be far too obvious for that like won't be able to like offer and defeat Jin, but like this will be like the only plan that is having to like somehow with such absolute perfect skill to like be able to like destroy that crust of Jin and bring down all the points in be what like the only plan that would be having. And would be definitely extremely empathetic and like the last thing would be and would be feeling extremely grateful for like the help of like to go and through and all of them in like saving from like Jim and the boundaries and all that. So like I'm definitely the empathetic, the last thing she will be wanting will be to like once again have like when from getting into trouble because of her will be along the line like will be feeling. And like the last thing else, could be wanting will be for like to start to like get dragged into all this with like and that way you can grow as well. Once again, getting dragged into all this and also getting into once again getting into trouble. Again, like general like the conflict. So like the last thing you only want. So like I'm feeling like that way with such absolute strength like attempting to launch that stealthy like simply trying to like destroy like the trap of Jin, which like Jin would be setting as like an absolute trap, like exactly like how Jin had tricked like Uragawa with like the trust like which might not have been like the fake trust that like Uragawa has like stolen. So like I'm doing like the similar fake trust like I'm doing like Jin so creating few singles like bomb and like would be like setting it up as like a bait for like a so like I'm trying to probably eventually showing up to where Jin would be and basically like with that absolute that like seeing this trait and like not realizing that like it's like a fake and I'm like totally destroying like that trust and then that would be how like the next time will be getting captured and getting into like an different kind of situation quite it and it's about like scenario setup. So I'm trying like work through like I'm like the first person once again will be that will be finding out about like version of how they going in a sense will be set up. So that way like I'm just like even before like it went through we have to like perfectly find like the practical plan to like bring down that Jin and like the boundary that I'm just even before that like it should have totally on finding out like version of like maybe probably either running off on the phone or like will be probably uh adamant about like them having to like go right now itself and face like personal that and that way like I'm looking definitely that way like the next battle between like Israel and Pope was the next game and like about army happening through such a manner like it's like the scenario that I'm bringing into them. Also like the other positive that I'm looking for in for like I do also see like current seven entrance into like the fight between like Israel and Pope like ending and like about army and like you already say we going through and maybe they have to escape like mostly having a connection to maybe like the whole data bank uh, of like Mayuri, like the amount data like being looked back in like Mayuri's like lab in the from like Mayuri's data bank, like maybe these two incidents might be connected because like it might totally have a connection because like I'm like it might have been maybe someone that's like got to put that and maybe it might have been according to like Urahara's like stepping orders like like it might have been someone squad captain. Maybe it might have been okay that day. It's also like the other problem that like according to like Urahara's orders that might have it's been into like Mayuri's lab and check like the bounty that because like Urahara might have really want to find out that absolute details about like the bounty to figure out like the absolute pro weakness of like the bounty. So like I'm saying by the time like uh, once like that data was sent to like Urahara and basically once like Urahara went through the data and figured out like the actual home weakness of like the bound like at that point I was like Urahara might have totally what Urahara might have totally realized would be like basically maybe by then like they might have been aware that they need to improve are already at like the bound mansion and trying to like bring down like the bound. So like I'm looking at that point want to go through like the bound that they might also realize something about like the bound that like the way it's going to is right now are trying to fighting against like the bound to like bring down like the bound and with like them range like what you like them fighting the bound the way it is right now will be extremely dangerous for like it's going through and might have like the full possibility of like it's going through getting eliminated by themselves. If they along the lines of like such a realization might have happened to like going through the data of the bound might have been the case definitely mandatory. So that might have been like so in that battle like there might have been also like the weakness of like the round as well. That might have been mentioned. So like that way like Ohara might have been eventually a bit like figure out like how was that going to like first fight against like definitely not the 300. So like that way like I'm going like Ohara might have realized like extreme dangerous situation like it went suddenly then as they are trying to like say Ishida right now I'm fighting off against the bound. So like with my desire to like Ohara or maybe quickly sending that I already have when Jinda and like other than basically to like rescue his Gwen. So that like basically they could like all bring them back and they to like Hara shops and basically Hara at that point will be able to like reveal like the weaknesses of like the bounds that it went through. So that like in a prepared, well prepared manner like and like in the proper and perfect manner like it went through would be able to like the next time would be able to like approach their fight against like monks and will be able to through such a manner by knowing like the weaknesses of like the monks that is when will be able to like bring down like the monks will be along the lines like Urahara might have realized them that definitely none of them. This might be the reason for like right now theology all of them and like showing up and like saying Christian so right now might be the day like the opportunity that I'm looking at.